to the Gulf War and steel rain.
Modern conflict is sustained by electronic information. What was known as signals intelligence during the Second World War is now broadly defined as electronic warfare, encompassing everything from computers to radio communications to aircraft and missile radars. For the intelligence analyst, acquiring an electronic blueprint of the enemy's capabilities is as vital as the information provided by more traditional photographic and human sources. This blueprint is called an electronic order of battle.
The electronic order of battle tells us about an enemy's electronic capabilities: radars, early warning systems, surface-to-air missiles, tracking radars, things like that.
Within days of the Iraqi invasion of Kuwait, an RC-135 reconnaissance aircraft was in the skies over the Persian Gulf. One of the several modifications of the Boeing KC-135 aerial tanker, this version of the RC is called Rivet Joint. Its mission is to collect information to establish an electronic order of battle. It's one of America's most critical and most highly classified spy planes. The RC-135 Rivet Joint is not as widely known as other reconnaissance platforms, such as the SR-71 and the U-2. And that is for a reason. The plane's operators avoid publicity. It's not found at air shows, and unlike the E-3 AWACS, whose mission of watching the skies is often widely promoted for diplomatic reasons, the arrival of a Rivet Joint on station is always low-key.
What they're doing is looking and listening. They're seeing where those electronic emissions are coming from, where the radars are. They're mapping and mapping. They're saying these units are here. This missile is over here.
Knowing those frequencies, it's now possible to develop countermeasures, either to jam them, to send them spurious information, ultimately to defeat those as potential threats.
Any information broadcast over the electromagnetic spectrum can be monitored, analyzed, and stored by Rivet Joint's onboard systems, or passed on in real time to any place in the world. For most of its operational career, the Rivet Joint orbited along the boundaries of the former communist bloc, listening to and recording electronic signals for later analysis in Washington. During the height of the Cold War, its mission was so sensitive that even photographing the airplane was considered a breach of security. During Operation Desert Shield, the 5-month buildup of U.S. and coalition forces in the region, Rivet Joint flew continuous 24-hour orbits along the Saudi-Iraqi border, methodically piecing together the building blocks of the Iraqi air defense system. One tactic involved sending fast-moving U.S. fighters towards Kuwait and Iraq, only to turn away at the last moment before crossing the border. The ensuing flurry of electronic activity was quietly monitored by the Rivet Joint from a safe distance. And although the Iraqis eventually caught on to the deception and quickly turned off their radars, the Rivet Joint needed only a few seconds to capture the essential information.
They might know that the Iraqis are using a radar at this particular frequency, which would facilitate the jamming capability, because then by narrowing the frequency range of the jammer, you can increase the power output rather than having a lesser power by covering more frequencies.
Of particular concern was the ability of the Iraqis to track the F-117 stealth fighter on radar. The degree to which the supposedly invisible stealth was tracked by Iraqi radar was never revealed, even to congressional investigators conducting a classified analysis of the air war in the Gulf.
The only clearance we were denied was a report on the issue of guided SAM launches against the F-117s. We asked to see that report. We were denied access to that report.
For the first time on television, these images reveal Rivet Joint's inner chamber. The business end of an RC-135 is crammed with 45,000 pounds of high-power computers and displays, processing information at a rate equivalent to 10,000 of the fastest home computers. The electricity required to run this vast array is enough to light up several city blocks. 3 electronic warfare officers, called Ravens, locate and analyze enemy radars. Another 12 to 16 information operators from the Air Force's Air Intelligence Agency, many of them trained linguists, oversee the aircraft's most secretive collection task, communications intelligence, or COMINT.
They start listening to the conversation. Pilots talking to the control tower, the ground intercept controllers talking to the pilots, and different units in the field.
Although the specifics of its COMINT missions during the Gulf War remain classified, it is likely that Rivet Joint played a key role in what has been described as the strategic intelligence coup of the war.
The U.S. National Security Agency, the eavesdropping people, managed to intercept several conversations between Saddam Hussein himself and Nezar Hamdoun, who was his ambassador at the UN in New York. And those conversations provided an absolutely critical insight into Saddam's state of mind and what he really believed he could achieve at different times. So, for example, shortly before the ground war, a lot of us who were covering the story at the time were wondering, well, is this ground war really necessary? And the confidence with people like President Bush expressed that a ground war was necessary seemed a bit puzzling to us. And I think now one can say with hindsight that he was privy to this extraordinary strategic intelligence, which showed that Saddam still thought that his ground forces could bog down the coalition.
It'll be many years before the extent of Rivet Joint's exploits in the Gulf War are fully known, but its vigil in the skies of the Middle East and around the world will certainly continue for the foreseeable future.